Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful and, honestly, most secretive forces in all of finance, quantitative investing. But our story doesn't actually start on Wall Street. Nope. It kicks off with a really interesting mystery in the world of AI.
So picture this. It's early 2025, and the whole AI world is just buzzing about this brand new model, right? It's called DeepSeek, and it's a seriously impressive piece of technology. But then, people started digging, They wanted to know who's behind this incredible cutting-edge lab. And what they found? Well, it was a name nobody expected. Turns out, the whole operation was funded by a company called Huanfeng Quant. Now, if you're in the investment community, that name is legendary. So right away, this raised a huge, fascinating question. Yeah, why on earth is a high finance firm pouring millions, maybe even billions, into the AI arms race? What's the connection? Well, the answer to that question gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. And it all boils down to two words: quantitative investing.
Okay, so what is that exactly? Well, let's break it down. In simple terms, it's an investment style that uses math, statistical analysis, and a ton of computer power to find these tiny, fleeting opportunities to make a profit in the market. It's kind of like looking for needles in a haystack, but your magnet is a supercomputer. So for a firm like Huanfeng, building a better AI like DeepSeek, that's like building a much, much stronger magnet. It means sharper insights, faster trades. But, this whole idea isn't new, not at all. It's actually the result of over 100 years of evolution.
All right, so let's take a look at how we got here. We're going to trace how a few pretty abstract academic ideas ballooned into a multi-trillion-dollar industry. This is the quant revolution.
So the very first seeds were planted way back in 1900. A guy named Louis Bachelier had this radical idea to use probability theory to analyze financial markets. Fast forward to the 50s, and Harry Markowitz comes along and gives us modern portfolio theory, which is basically a mathematical blueprint for managing risk. Then the 70s hit, and things get really interesting. On one hand, you have the efficient market hypothesis, which basically says, hey, you can't beat the market. All the information's already priced in. But then, almost at the same time, you get the Black-Scholes-Merton formula, a super powerful tool for pricing options. And this created a fascinating conflict, right? The academics were saying you can't find an edge, but the math was suddenly giving people the exact tools they needed to go out and look for one.
And you know who was the perfect person to try? A guy named Ed Thorpe. This dude was a math professor who, get this, first figured out how to beat casinos at blackjack by counting cards. So what does he do next? He takes that exact same mindset to Wall Street. He wasn't trying to be a psychic and predict the future. No, he was just using pure statistics to find little games where the odds were tipped, even just slightly, in his favor. And then he would just bet on that over and over, systematically. You could say he's basically the prototype for every single quant that came after him.
Okay, now look at this number, 39.1%. This is what happens when you take Ed Thorpe's philosophy and crank it up to its absolute extreme. For 30 years, the Medallion Fund, which is run by this super secretive firm Renaissance Technologies, pulled an average return of nearly 40% a year. And that's after they took out their massive fees. It is, without a doubt, the single greatest money-making machine in the history of finance, and it was all built on these quantitative models.
So the pioneers who followed in these footsteps, they all took really different paths. On one end of the spectrum, you've got Renaissance, which was a total black box. They used these incredibly complex strategies, basically finding microscopic price differences that existed for just a split second, and they guarded their secrets like they were nuclear codes. Then you've got a firm like D.E. Shaw. They built more of a hybrid model, mixing that raw computing power with actual insights from human experts. And then, over in Europe, you had CFM, who did something completely different. They acted more like a university, They openly published their research and worked with academics. Three pioneers, three totally different philosophies.
And all that brings us to today, which has this fascinating kind of split personality. On one side, at the very top, you have an insane arms race. I'm talking about giants like 2 Sigma. These places are basically tech companies that just happen to be in finance. They're in a death match for the best AI talent. And they're using wild data like satellite images of parking lots, credit card transaction data, anything to get an edge. But
And this is the crazy part. At the exact same time, the tools to do this stuff have never been more available to regular people. Thanks to things like cloud computing and open source software, you can get started right from your laptop.
Okay, so that's the big picture. But you might be wondering, how do I actually get started? How do I go from just being curious to actually knowing something? Well, for anyone just dipping their toes in, the whole journey really starts with a few key books. And I want you to think about this like a little reading quest. Step 1. You gotta understand the culture. For that, you read The Man Who Solved the Market. Seriously, it's not a dry textbook. It reads like a thriller about Jim Simons and Renaissance. It'll teach you about the culture of these places. Okay, step 2, learn the mindset. Go right back to the original source, Ed Thorp's Beat the Market. This book is all about that core idea of finding a statistical edge. And finally, step 3, get the blueprint. Ernie Chan's book, Quantitative Trading, is your practical guide. It's the one that gives you a real blueprint for how you might build your own simple system. All right, and once you've got those 3 down, there's one more to really tie it all together. You need a map of the professional institutional world. That book is Inside the Black Box by Rishi Narang. It's fantastic. It breaks down all the different strategies the big funds are using and shows you how all the pieces of a professional quant firm actually fit together. Now, reading is absolutely crucial, but here's the thing about quant. It's a hands-on discipline. You really learn this stuff by doing it. And the good news is, the online world today makes it easier than ever to roll up your sleeves and get started. Let me show you where to go. Okay, your number 1 stop is going to be a place called QuantConnect. The best way to think about it is like your own personal laboratory, but it's in the cloud. It takes care of all the messy, annoying stuff for you. Getting the data, building the testing engines, all that infrastructure is handled. That means you can focus on the fun part, coding your strategies and testing your ideas. It is, hands down, the best place to start practicing. Now let's say this little hobby starts getting serious, and you're thinking, maybe I could do this for a living. If that's you, then QuantNet is your compass. It's this whole online community built around careers and academics in this field. It's where you'll find info on specialized degrees, like a master's in financial engineering. You'll see real, candid reviews of different programs. And, my favorite part, it has a massive library of actual interview questions from the top firms. Super valuable. Okay, so you're in your QuantConnect lab, you're ready to test something, but what? Where do you get ideas? That's where Quantpedia comes in. It's a brilliant resource. What it does is take these super dense, really complex academic research papers, and it just boils them down into simple, understandable trading ideas that you can then go and test. Now, let's be clear, it's an idea generator, not a magic box of winning strategies. But it's an incredible starting point for your own research. And finally, for all you developers out there, the people who want to build their entire system from the ground up, there's GitHub. It is your open source arsenal. I mean, it's just a massive treasure trove of code. You'll find full backtesting engines, trading bots, and these amazing curated lists called awesome quant lists that link out to hundreds of other tools and resources. If you want to go deep, this is the deepest dive there is. So let's just take a quick look back at the journey we've been on. We kicked things off with a modern mystery, right? The connection between AI and finance. From there, we dove into a century of history, seeing how theory turned into trillions. We built out a starter library for you, taking you from culture to actual code. And finally, we mapped out the modern community, showing you where to find everything from cloud labs to career guides. You know, when you boil it all down, quantitative investing demands this unique combination. You need the rigorous, curious mind of a scientist, but you also need the practical, get-it-done attitude of an engineer. It's honestly one of the most intellectually demanding challenges in the entire world of finance. So the only question left is, are you ready to take it on?